Beliau telah memberi hibah ke Indonesia senilai $159 juta, di kesehatan 119 juta, pertanian 5 juta, teknologi 5 juta, bantuan sosial lainnya infrastruktur programnya lebih dari 20 juta. I told the floor that you have assisted us directly in direct donation, more than $159 million since 2009, mostly into health. Dan teknologi pembuatan vaksin yang luar biasa, terutama beliau sedang kembangkan vaksin TBC untuk dunia, tapi Indonesia akan jadi salah satu tempat yang akan diuji coba.
Duh, kayaknya Bill Gates ini baik banget ya, peduli banget gitu sama kesehatan Indonesia. Nah, tapi ada hal yang perlu kamu tahu loh. Bill Gates ini adalah salah satu elit yang telah mengupayakan pengurangan populasi manusia selama bertahun-tahun melalui pemberian vaksinasi. Bahkan, perusahaannya sengaja mengembangkan vaksin yang berbahaya untuk kemudian diberikan kepada masyarakat. Mau lihat buktinya?
Is the population going to get so big that feeding everybody and maintaining the environment is going to be impossible? Here we can see a chart that looks at the total world population over the last several hundred years. And at first glance, this is a bit scary. We go from less than 1 billion in 1800, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.4 billion where we are today is happening even faster. So Melinda and I wondered whether providing new medicines and keeping children alive, would that create more of a population problem?
Gas explosion tears through Russian bioweapons lab containing smallpox, Ebola and HIV virus, sparking major emergency.
That is absolutely wonderful, because as an environmentalist, I say to myself, the best possible news would be some mega emergency which got rid of huge chunks of the human race.
Now we see the creation of a new massive class of useless people. As computers become better and better in more and more fields, there is a distinct possibility that computers will outperform us in most tasks and will make humans redundant. And then the big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?
Well, over this decade, we believe unbelievable progress can be made, both inventing new vaccines and making sure they get out to all the children who need them. The benefits there in terms of reducing sickness, reducing the population growth, it really allows the society a chance to take care of itself once you've made that intervention. The benefits there in terms of reducing sickness,
reducing the population growth.
The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
We could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
The thing that'll get us back to the world that we had before coronavirus is the vaccine and getting that out to all 7 billion people. Normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population.
The Gates Foundation is very much at the forefront on this hunt for a vaccine. We've all learned by now the timeline, the hopeful timeline of 12 to 18 months. That is a highly expedited track, a fast track for a vaccine. Can you explain why?
Well, usually a vaccine takes over 5 years because you have many steps that you want to do in a serial way. Here, because of all the incredibly negative effects, the sooner the better. But there will be a trade-off. We'll have less safety testing than we typically would have.
As I understand it then from what you're saying is that it may be that there needs to be some compromise in some of the safety measures that would normally be expected to create a vaccine because time is so crucial?
Well, of course, if you want to wait and see if a side effect shows up 2 years later,
that takes 2 years.
Nah, apakah kamu mau untuk jadi bahan uji coba ini? Apakah pemerintah Indonesia sebegitu naif atau memang tidak peduli kepada masyarakatnya? Terus, kenapa coba kira-kira vaksinnya diuji coba di negara-negara Afrika, India, dan Indonesia? Saatnya Indonesia membuka mata untuk menyadari apa maksud para elit dunia terhadap bangsa ini.
It's true that some vaccines can have harmful side effects, but there is absolutely no reason to distrust the basic mechanism of vaccination.
An 18-year-old health worker has developed blood clots after getting her COVID vaccine.
High school basketball player remains in the hospital this morning with blood clots in his brain developed shortly after getting his COVID-19 shot.
Fit and healthy Ellie Peacock, diagnosed with blood clots more than a fortnight after her AstraZeneca vaccination.
Emma Berkey is continuing to fight for her life after getting the Johnson & Johnson vaccine earlier this month.
She started having seizures. That's when they took her to the hospital. Then they realized she was getting blood clots in the brain.
Health authorities are waiting for test results from a New South Wales woman who died from blood clots shortly after receiving a COVID vaccination.
59-year-old Neil Astles died from a rare blood clot on the brain after having the AstraZeneca vaccine.
On Thursday, we learned of an Oregon woman in her 50s who developed a serious blood clot and died after her Johnson & Johnson shot.
48-year-old woman received a vaccine last Friday and then reportedly developed blood clots the next day. Sadly, she died on Wednesday.
54-year-old Francine Boyer died of a blood clot after receiving the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine.
A local woman in her late 30s died from a rare blood clot after getting the one-dose vaccine.
Her name is Jessica Berg Wilson, and she died on September 7th. Her obituary says it was from blood clots. She had been vehemently opposed to taking the vaccine.
if you want to wait and see if a side effect shows up 2 years later,
that takes 2 years.
While the blood clots associated with the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine are top of mind for many, concerns are being raised about cases of myocarditis or inflammation of the heart muscle following the Pfizer vaccine.
Stronger evidence that the mRNA COVID vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna could be causing myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle.
Tonight, we're hearing reports of some young people developing a heart condition after getting their COVID vaccines. It's called myocarditis. It's an inflammation of the heart.
Myocarditis is inflammation of the heart resulting in chest pain or tightness, along with shortness of breath.
Symptoms you could spot would include chest pain, rapid or abnormal heart rhythms, shortness of breath.
Symptoms can include chest pain, shortness of breath, or palpitations.
Myocarditis weakens your heart and can form clots leading to a stroke or heart attack.
Reported cases have been mostly in teens and young adults.
Most cases have been in boys and young men aged 12 to 24.
Most of these reports are occurring in individuals in their late teens and early 20s.
The long-term effects are still unknown, particularly for young athletes.
Exercise actually makes it worse, and that could be because there is a predisposition to get in an abnormal heart rhythm, arrhythmia, which essentially worsens the underlying process.
Professional athletes all over the world are mysteriously collapsing during games after suffering a heart condition or a complication, sometimes even cardiac arrest.
Nearly 800 athletes, young, fit people in the prime of life, falling down on the field. In fact, 500% more soccer players in the EU are dropping dead from heart attacks than just 1 year ago.
I've never seen anything like it. I played for 17 years. I don't think I saw one person in 17 years have to come off a football pitch with breathing difficulties, clutching their heart problems. But the last year, it's just been unbelievable how many people, not just footballers, sports people in general, you've had tennis players, you've had cricketers, basketball players, just how many are just keeling over. And at some point, surely you have to say, this isn't right, this needs to be investigated.
The average age of the players suffering cardiac arrest is just 23 years old. How many 23-year-old athletes were collapsing and suffering heart attacks before this year.
11 high school athletes have died in 7 months, the latest death happening this week. On Monday in Macon, Georgia, 15-year-old Joshua Ivory Jr. collapsed during his football team's first mandatory practice.
The Kennedy High community mourning tonight after one of their high school football players died after collapsing during Friday night's football game.
A 15-year-old boy died after he collapsed during basketball practice.
A South Carolina high school football player has died after collapsing at football practice.
A West Catholic high school student has died after collapsing during a football scrimmage.
This is not a coincidence. Healthy teenagers dying after getting the Pfizer injection.
We know that Pfizer knew this was going to happen because in their clinical trial, there were 5 heart attacks in the vaccine group and only 1 in the placebo group. So your chance of dying of a heart attack from that vaccine, according to their own studies, is 500% greater than if you're unvaccinated.
Pfizer knew within 90 days of release of their vaccine, there was 1,223 deaths reported to Pfizer by doctors and hospitals that thought the vaccine did it. And Pfizer sat on these deaths, didn't tell anybody, didn't pull the product off the market.
They knew we were going to kill a lot of people. And they did it anyway.
In 2019, there were 605 reports of deaths over the last 3 decades from all vaccines. In 2021, there were nearly 15,000 vaccine deaths reported in just the first 9 months.
The death rates from this vaccine, there's been more deaths in 8 months than in all the billions of vaccines combined over the last 30 years. From this one vaccine, 17,000 recorded deaths in the United States, and we know the death rate's much, much higher than that.
According to the Department of Health and Human Services itself, those numbers represent just 1% of the actual deaths and injuries.
The benefits there in terms of reducing sickness,
reducing the population growth.
I'm very reassured by the fact that we have got a grip of the vaccination program. We have, through our brilliant scientists and industrialists, got a grip on huge numbers of vaccinations.
I think it's complete nonsense that we are now confronted with an island, would you believe it, of 70 million.
There is absolutely no reason to distrust the basic mechanism of vaccination. If I had to choose the best invention in history, I would choose vaccines.
What do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?
We do a really great job on new vaccines.
We could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.